Suffer in silence!
Hey, me Matt here. So, Wrestlemania 20. A good show, I gotta say. I think that there was a lot of twists in this match that, at the time, anyway, for me, was pretty cool. But, you know, there's a lot of matches that look good on paper, and we'll get to that. Yeah, I think it was a fairly decent show. So we start off with the Harlem Choir, who sang America the Beautiful. Then we get to WrestleMania 20. Then we get the first match, John Cena versus The Big Show. You know, it's funny because John Cena came in 2003 and had the rap persona, you know, with the chain gang and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, you know, what a cool persona. I think, I really enjoyed this kind of John Cena. I think that I know myself that understanding you have to evolve. And through the years, he's actually done that. So this was cool. I mean, I didn't realize that John Cena actually had to use the brass knucks after having the chain taken off of him from the referee, you know, using the brass knucks to defeat the Big Show and become the U.S. champion, the new U.S. champion. And this was a good match. Of course, the Big Show, back when he had hair, you know. And a year earlier, or 2 years earlier, beating Brock Lesnar for the WWF Championship. WWE Undisputed Championship. You know, this was interesting. I know I mentioned yesterday in my Fastlane review with my friend Kyle, I said that, you know, to have Kevin Owens lose the Universal title only to win the United States Championship. You know, it sucks to see a guy who wins a mid-card title just after losing the main title. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, it is what it is, as I've said before. And, you know, Big Show is still around. He's still, you know, for a guy that just lost a ton of weight and looks ripped, he, I guess, can still move like the best with the best of them. Then we get to the Fatal 4-Way for the Tag Team Championship. We have the Raw Tag Team Champions, the unlikely pair of ECW's Rob Van Dam and WCW's Booker T. Now, Booker T is a veteran. Booker T still does the pre-show interviews or panel, if you will. You know, I'm not sure what happened to Rob Van Dam, and I don't think that he doesn't work there anymore because he's a pothead. Although I wish he would come back. I thought he was a really good, unique high flyer. Even when he came back just for a little while, as, you know, much older, he still moved pretty well. They went up against Garrison, Cade, and Jindrak. You know, Garrison, Cade, unfortunately, passed away. Mark Jindrak, I'm not quite sure what the hell happened to him, but Cade would later go on to team with Trevor Murdoch. And, yeah, so that's an unlikely pair. I don't remember them being a tag team, but these guys were okay, I guess. Then it was the Dudley Boyz and La Résistance with René Duprée and Rob Conway. And again, the former tag team champions, the Dudley Boyz, La Résistance, I think were tag team champions at one point, but I'm not sure. I know that One of them went to SmackDown. And then we get to Christian versus Chris Jericho. This was, looking at these guys now compared to back then, how much younger they looked. Chris Jericho had his long mane, a Lionheart joke. And then you get the love triangle again, the classic love triangle. It was at first they were the heel tag team, and they had a bet who would, I think it was who would date Trish Stratus or whatever, and they bet money on it. Of course, Chris Jericho ended up having feelings. He did that corny romantic movie speech outside the locker room to Trish Stratus. And then, of course, it was an interesting way to go. Eventually having Christian beat the shit out of Trish Stratus. Yeah, this was still back in the day when men can put moves on a woman just like women can put the moves on men. If that makes any sense. I think it should still be like that, but apparently other people think otherwise. But it got heat and a rivalry with Christian and Chris Jericho. Now, this match was awesome. This match was a very cool match. It was these two really cool wrestlers. And then you get Trish Stratus running out to the ring, and you have no idea what she's doing there. You obviously think, okay, she's in the side with Chris Jericho. So, Chris Jericho loses to Christian. You have Chris Jericho, you have Christian who somehow hurts Trish Stratus. And then Trish Stratus goes into the turnbuckle, and Chris Jericho goes to help her. Trish Stratus elbows him in the face, causing Chris Jericho to lose. Then we get the thing where Christian leaves the ring, and then Chris Jericho goes and tries to get Christian, and Trish Stratus pulling him back and slapping him like a little bitch. Wow, that was cool though. And that was a big surprise back then when I saw that, because you didn't expect it, and Trish Stratus really hit him hard too. I thought that was cool. But overall, good match. Good transition too from being a face to a heel with Trish Stratus. Yeah. So, that was a good match. Then we get Evolution versus the Rock and Sock Connection. This is Randy Orton, Batista, and Ric Flair versus, of course, the Rock and Sock Connection, The Rock, and Mick Foley. Not Mankind, but Mick Foley. And this was a cool, again, very cool how you get Mick Foley, who was younger, who was not as big as I thought, still had very good skills in the ring, kind of. And then you get The Rock, who came back from doing a movie, who was still younger, who still had hair, who still could do it as well. And facing Randy Orton, Batista, and Ric Flair, who, of course, you get Ric Flair, the veteran, the guy who is the legendary wrestler, Randy Orton, a third-generation wrestler, and then, of course, Dave Batista, who's just there. And then, Evolution obviously won the match, but you had The Rock give a standing ovation to Mick Foley, and, of course, the crowd went nuts. And, well deserved. I mean, Mick Foley, unfortunately, didn't win this match, but it was still good to know that The Rock cared enough to acknowledge and respect Mick Foley for everything he has done, and being in New York, where Mick Foley's from. Then we get Torrie Wilson and Sable, who defeated Trish Stratus, Stacy, Keibler, and Miss Jackie in PLAYBOY evening gown match. Yeah, this was interesting. You got two divas who aren't really good wrestlers yet. They were put in very sexual matches. And then Miss Jackie, who, not Jacqueline, but Miss Jackie, who I think it was. Anyways, who was a great wrestler, a good female wrestler. This match was okay. I mean, there's nothing special about it. It was another gown match. And then we get Chavo Guerrero, the Cruiserweight Champion, with the late Chavo Classic. And, it's upsetting now knowing that Chavo Sr. passed away a few weeks ago. And he's joined by a great crowd in the sky, including his brother, Eddie Guerrero. We get Chavo, who took out Último Dragon, Shannon Moore, Jamie Noble, Funaki, Nunzio, Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio, Tajiri, and Akio. I don't remember Akio. This was back in the day when the Cruiserweight division was awesome. And I know that 205 is, fine and whatever. I think, yeah, it could be better. Back in the day, you had a really good mix of American, Mexican, Japanese. And yeah, you have somewhat that in 205. The Cruiserweight Classics was an okay show. You had a lot of people from around the world, or people who represented their nationalities. But back then, you had, Yoshihiro Tajiri, the guy who was in ECW, the guy that started in Japan, in New Japan. And then you have Rey Mysterio, who was a Mexican luchador who, is in AAA for a while. He was in Lucha Underground for a while. I'm not sure if, at least I haven't seen him wrestle in CMLL. And Ultimo Dragon, of course. This was awesome. But of course, Chavo Guerrero retained the title. And this was an open Cruiserweight match for the Cruiserweight Championship. But it was still a great match nonetheless. I really enjoyed the Cruiserweight division back then. And again, not being a guy who really watched WCW just to see that was awesome. Then we had Goldberg versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. And this is one of what's going to be one of three. In the Royal Rumble you have Brock Lesnar eliminating Bill Goldberg. And what I thought would have been a great match at WrestleMania would come up. To be honest with you, I looked it on paper. Because this match was, I'll give you this. I thought it was a lot better than what people said it was. I thought, yeah, you know what? I think it is. But you have Goldberg, who was going to leave. And you had Brock Lesnar, who was at the time going to do a football thing, So, really, people knew that their main focus wasn't on the match. It was on, let's bury those two, I guess. So it wasn't really that great for that time. I think it's still a lot better than the this past Survivor Series match, and now they're gonna wrestle at WrestleMania this year, and hopefully for the Universal title. But at this match, you know, I think what was cool was just to see Steve Austin stun Brock Lesnar, and then after a few beers, stun Goldberg. But this match was okay. Again, not the greatest, but it, yeah, just okay. But not as bad as people said it was. Then we get the WWE Tag Team Championship match. Fatal 4-Way. Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty for the champions. Again, I'm not sure where Scotty, Grandmaster Sexay was. They defeated the World's Greatest Tag Team, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, the Basham Brothers, Doug and Danny, I'm not sure where that tag team is now, and the APA, of course, friggin' Bradshaw. This was a good match, of course. The Bashams were, yeah. APA were really good, but unfortunately this didn't go well for them. And then, of course, the world's greatest tag team could have won, but they didn't. And it was still Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty. I don't know when they disbanded, but at the same time, it would have been cool just to see if Brian Christopher was in their corner. Then you get a hair versus title match for the Women's Championship. Victoria, who was the champion, versus Molly Holly. This was a pretty interesting match. I think that, it would be interesting to see what Victoria would look like with a bald head, knowing that she was with Stevie Richards the year prior. But this was an interesting match. Of course, I went to Victoria retaining and Molly Holly struggling to get away from the barber's chair, but ended up getting her head shaved. Yeah. So this was a pretty good Divas match. I think that, well, it is what it is. I can't really say too much about it, but yeah, it was a good match. And the first time I've seen a woman versus woman hair versus hair match. And then we have Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship. And, it's a shame. It's a very sad thing to know that Eddie's gone, and being a great wrestler, he wrestled in ECW, he wrestled in Japan, he wrestled in Mexico. Or did he wrestle in Japan? Oh yeah, anyways, obviously WCW. Coming in there and winning the WWF Championship from Brock Lesnar at No Way Out was probably his best achievement. And Kurt Angle, of course, being the Olympic hero. I said yesterday that Kurt Angle wrestled in high school. I actually thought he did. Apparently it was just he won the Olympic gold in the Olympics at some point in '96. But yeah, I did think he was on the wrestling team in high school. Whether that still is true, I'll have to look that up. I really should do more research before I do these. But Kurt Angle lost the title, or lost the match, when during the ankle lock, having Eddie Guerrero turn, and I actually saw it this time where his foot, he put something in his foot. And that meant that when during the angle lock, he could turn Kurt Angle, and the foot, the shoe would fall off, and Kurt Angle would be outside the ring. Kurt Angle got back in, and the roll up, and there it is. Eddie Guerrero retained the title. So it was a good match nonetheless. And it's just a shame that Eddie Guerrero never won the world title like he, I guess, told Stephanie he was going to do. You know. But with all the issues he had, it was, you know, very tragic. And then we get to, you know, before I say that, we had Eric Bischoff and Coach talk about The Undertaker. And, you know, Bischoff is like, I want you to go looking for The Undertaker because, you know, I want him on the Raw side. So, of course, Coach goes and tries to get The Undertaker. He goes to the locker room and he hears noise and who should come out but me, Gene Okerlund, and Mae Young, who I guess were having a bit of sex. That's what it looked like. Excuse me for a minute. Okay. Anyways, they came out and they talked for a bit. And then Bobby Heenan came out with the Fabulous Moolah, and it looked like they were having sex. And sorry about that. Just a thought. And you know, Bobby Heenan was at WrestleMania 17, and he looked okay. There was rumors circling around that Bobby Heenan had throat cancer, and I didn't really know. I thought it was just that a rumor. But then, you know, he shows up at WrestleMania 20, and he's skinny, and he talks funny. Like, they probably cut some of his tongue out or what not. And it's sad because you look at a lot of wrestlers who have passed away young, and then you look at Bobby Heenan. And I know it's cruel to say, but they took his jaw out, and he looks completely terrible. And I don't know what they did with him. I know a person that passed away from this type of cancer, and to know that he's still alive is short of a miracle. But anyways, Coach is looking for The Undertaker, hence this match. Cade versus The Undertaker. So, Royal Rumble comes around. Well, let's go from the beginning. Survivor Series 2003. So, Undertaker versus Vince McMahon. With the help of Cade, Vince McMahon wins the match and therefore buries The Undertaker. So Cade throws a eulogy, and at the Royal Rumble, they have a match. There's a match. Cade goes in, wrestles for a bit, and then you hear number 10. Or no, a countdown from 10 to 1. And then the lights go out. And you hear go. But then the lights go back on. So for, you know, a few weeks you get that, you know, false Undertaker appearance. So WrestleMania comes around. Cade gets into the ring. You know, and he says, oh, I killed The Undertaker. I killed The Undertaker. He can't be here. Well then, the lights go out. And then there's the gong. And then you hear, oh yes! Paul Bearer, which gets the crowd going crazy. And then who should come out? The Druids. And they have the torch with the fire, and they come out and they go from one end to the other and they raise the torch. And then the gong goes off again, and then the Undertaker's music hits. And here comes the new and improved Dead Man. You know, his American Badass gimmick was a good idea for its time. You know, it was a new era and whatever. But this is the true Undertaker. This is what everybody really wanted. So, out comes the Undertaker. And Kane is amazed. He doesn't know what to think. He's like, "You're not real!" You know, and then he touches the Undertaker to make sure. And then they go back and forth. And it's not without, of course, Undertaker winning this match. And, yeah. So, Undertaker is back and he's badder than ever. And, eventually, you know, through the months that go by, he will lose Paul Bearer in the match, the Great American Bash with the Dudleys in a weird angle, but yeah, this was interesting. Undertaker #1 at WrestleMania. But then we get the main event, a triple threat. Chris Benoit, the winner of the 2004 Royal Rumble, like it or not, versus Triple H and Shawn Michaels. You know, I don't like Shawn Michaels. I never liked Shawn Michaels. I can't deny that he's not one of the greatest wrestlers ever. I'm not saying that. But here's a guy who didn't win the Royal Rumble, and he bitches, and he says, "I want it," and blah blah blah. He didn't even fucking earn it. So he fucking gets into the WrestleMania main event. Oh, was I pissed. But there you go. So, a triple threat match. And I thought if Chris Benoit doesn't win, we riot. Well, I wasn't there, but I riot. It just so happens that the match was great. Everyone bleeds. That sounded twisted. Benoit slaps the crippler crossface, Triple H, and the tap out. Chris Benoit becomes the World Heavyweight Championship. And what makes this sentimental and harder for most wrestling fans is that you have Eddie Guerrero standing in the ring with the WWE Championship with tears in his eyes, applauding Chris Benoit's win. And then they hug, and then Eddie Guerrero raises his hand, and the two are both main event champions. And it's a shame because you know what happens when Eddie Guerrero passes away in 2005 and then Chris Benoit passes away in 2007. But with Chris Benoit, everybody knows that he committed the ultimate sin. Whether you want to believe it was brain damage or not, he still did it. And it's sad to say, but it's true. And Chris Benoit was one of my favorite wrestlers. Now, I knew he was in WCW, but I was never a fan of WCW. I was glad when he came to WWE. But, you know, it's sad because we're never going to hear any good things about Benoit but the murders. But this was a good match. Nonetheless, it was nice to see two best friends who've been together through everything stand side by side with the confetti coming down with blood on their face, with tears in their eyes, raising the championship belts. That was a good WrestleMania match. That was a good WrestleMania moment. Whether anyone wants to overshadow that or not, it was a WrestleMania moment. And this whole WrestleMania 20 was a good show. It wasn't the greatest, but it was a really good show. I thought it was. Like I said, a lot of twists, a lot of turns, if you will. This was awesome. And unfortunately, it'll only go downhill from here. But, yeah. Good show. That's pretty much all I can say. Talk to you later. Bye.